Let's talk about bubble sort. So I think most of us sort of understand the concept of sorting, right? Take a bunch of numbers that are jumbled up and then get them in the right order. There's many ways of accomplishing that, though. Many ways to sort a list of values. Bubble sort is just one such way. It's a relatively common way. The best way? I don't know. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's a way to sort the list. It gets the job done. So the gist of it is we're going to go down the list and we're going to compare neighboring values. And if we detect that they're out of order, or if we detect that they're in order, we don't have to do anything. If we detect that they're out of order, we're going to swap those positions. And I'm going to go through the whole list, right? And if I get to the whole list and I haven't swapped any values, that means that they must be sorted and I'm done. But if I get through the whole list and I have swapped values, then I have to go back to the beginning and start it over again. That's the idea behind bubble sort. They gave you a little example here. I hope you stepped through it, and we had helped you out even more. We gave you some pseudocode here. In fact, I don't know how you guys started this assignment, but I would like to start this assignment by just taking this whole guy right here and copying it down here. Okay? That's how I'm going to start it. And now, this isn't going to work because this isn't like actual code, but we can turn it into actual code. That's the idea behind using pseudocode. Actually, every time I do the things with the comments in English, that's another example of pseudocoding it out. Writing the problem out in rough code and then coming back and coding it up, making it actually work. Some of these lines actually work as is. Like this line, that already works. That's a valid line of code. So I don't need to do anything about that. But this one, I need to change a little bit, right? While is sorted is false. Well, that's not how we say that. I would say double equals. And then I also need a colon on the end to make that happy. But the gist is the same. The gist is the same. Num swaps equals 0. Well, that's actually okay. That's a line of code. I don't need to worry about that. This line needs a lot. For each pair, A, B, of sequential numbers in the list. All right, this is where we need to do some work. How do I fix this to make it a proper loop? Somebody help me out? For what? I in list? Range? So this is the classic question, right? Are we iterating through the values or are we iterating by index? What do we think? Index? I think this is an example where we kind of need the index to pull this off. I think looping by index is certainly the easier way. Could you do it looping through by value? I don't want to say that the answer to that question is no, but it definitely feels difficult to do looping by value. It's not impossible, but it feels like it would be more difficult. I think looping by index is the way to go here. So I in range, what? Length of the list. It's a good place to start anyway. Okay? If A is greater than B, so A is going to be, A and B are neighbors in the list, right? A and B are neighbors in the list, and I want to compare them. So instead of A and B, well, let's start with the is greater than. That's the easy part. We'll just swap that out like that. But instead of A, I want to pull a value out of the list. So how do I do that? List of I. And then B, I want to be the neighbor. So list of I plus 1 will get me the neighbor, the neighboring value in the list. If this value is bigger than this value, I need to swap them. So how do I swap them? This is actually, I think, one of the trickier parts of this. I talked to several people about this today. How do I swap two values? There's more than one answer to this. Let's start with maybe how not to swap. I think it's tempting to do things like this. Very tempting to say something like this. But that's not going to work. Why? When I run this line of code, Whatever value was at that position is now gone. I've erased it. I've killed it. It's gone. So when I try to grab it here and put it in this spot, well, this line is basically doing nothing at this point, right? It's having no effect whatsoever because I erased this value. I erased it. So how do I solve that problem? I know some people, I need another variable. I need another variable. This is a pretty classic way of doing it. I'll make a temp variable. Set that equal to that, right? And now down here, I can use that temporary variable. This is a pretty classic way of swapping. There's another way to do this. I know some people discovered an alternate way of doing this that's a little bit more concise, right? What would I say instead? Anybody know? Anybody know another way of?
In our class, we used a list bracket. We had X, but yours would be I.
So list bracket I, comma.
List bracket I plus 1.
Yep.
Or no, excuse me, equals. Or,
Equals?
Yeah, 1 equal sign. And then now list bracket I plus 1, comma, list I.
Yep. This is another example of what people would say is the Python way of doing things, right? Taking some code. And again, just to be clear, if I back up for a second, this is classic swap. Like if you look up how to swap variables in a textbook or online or something, this is classic, traditional, how do you swap two values in a list? That's it. Nothing wrong with it. Works perfectly. I'm totally happy if you came up with this solution. But the Python way of doing things would be to try and condense this down. Grab two variables, set them equal to each other, but just swap the order. Has the same effect. Has the same effect. And so the hardcore Python coders out there would probably rather see you do it this way. I don't care. If you did it this way, I'm happy for you. That's awesome. And you should give yourself a pat on the back for that one. All right. This line, that line works as is. I don't need to touch it, right? So I'm almost done. If number of swaps is still 0, then set is sorted to true. So I just need to modify this a little bit, right? If number of swaps equals 0, equals, all right? Then we need to set is sorted to true, which is not particularly difficult, right? Is sorted equals true. And we return the list. Okay. This is not pseudocode anymore. This is code. Does it work? I don't know. Let's try it. We have some tests. Whoops. Bad input on line 2. What did I... Oh, colon. Okay, let's try it again. List index out of range on line 7. Uh-oh. What did we do? We had the same problem on Monday, didn't we? We did the same thing on Monday. What happened?
So we had, if for I in range when less, we had -1.
-1.
But that's on line 7, so. Yeah.
This will fix it. This is the same thing we did on Monday when we were messing around with strings too, right? Consider that if I'm adding 1 to I need to stop 1 short of where I would normally, otherwise I'm going to run off the end. I'm comparing neighbors. I can do this. Adding 1 to I is perfectly okay. I just need to remember that I have to stop 1 short, otherwise I'm going to run out of elements on my list and go off the edge. All right, let's try it again. Hey, there we go. There we go. That is a solution. This is classic bubble sort, but sorting, believe it or not, is a often discussed topic in the field of computer science. This is one way of sorting, not the only way, and I think it can kind of help some people to sort of get a visual idea of what happens. And there's lots of neat little tools out on the web that show. All right, here's a jumbled list of numbers, right? What does it look like if I bubble sort these? And if this actually does what I want it to, go. Do the thing. All right, here we go. There's a swap, there's a swap. Didn't have to swap those, right? It's running the bubble sort. it shows you the code that it's using down here. This is actually not exact, this is Java, not Python, so that's why it looks different, but it's basically the same idea. And you can see what happens every time I go through the list. What happens? I'm actually finding the largest value and pushing it to the end every single time. So the largest values bubble their way up to the end of the list. That's why it's called bubble sort, right? Every time I make a pass through this list, I'm going to find the next largest value in the list. And if I let this go long enough, eventually I'll get the list completely sorted. Is there a way to speed it up? Fast. Oh, yeah, go fast. Go faster. All right. That's as fast as it'll go. We're almost there. We're done. But that's not the only way, and this website's kind of neat because it shows other ways of doing sorting. So we've got, selection sort is another classic sorting algorithm, insertion sort. These all take roughly the same amount of time to sort the values. But if you want to do sorting fast, you need to bring in the heavy firepower like merge sort, which is my personal favorite sorting algorithm. It just feels really cool to me for whatever reason. Or quick sort. Let's do merge sort because that's my favorite. I won't bore you guys with this too long, but this is like how I'll spend my Friday nights. I don't know. So what merge sort does is it breaks the list into smaller and smaller chunks and then sorts those smaller chunks and then merges them back together. So you can see it's sorted the left half, the right half, and then it zips them back together to get the sorted list. It feels really cool, yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one who gets excited about this stuff. You guys are my kind of people. Here's quicksort, which is aptly named. It's one of the fastest ways to sort. It is a little bit more complex, though. It involves pivoting.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does it work?
It involves pivoting around a value. And you can kind of see the pivot happen. It goes very quickly, anyway.
How does it choose the value?
How does it choose the value? So it's looking for... it assumes that you're going to pivot around the first element, but then it starts looking for better pivot spots. Basically, it's looking for pivot spots with larger values on both sides that it can kind of swap around. That's not the greatest explanation in the world, to be perfectly honest with you. But anyway, I just wanted to point out, there's more than one way to sort a list, and they're all perfectly valid. They'll all get you to where you're going. And it's just kind of a cool little topic. So if you're ever interested, this is a cool website that you can check out. Any questions? Thanks for tagging along while I go off on a little tangent, you guys. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. You have an assignment due this weekend. And keep working on initials as well if you haven't got that finished up yet. Otherwise, have a great weekend. I'll see you back here on Monday.